movies? Give everybody just a moment to. I'll go first, just so everybody can have a little moment to think. Mine, my top one is still The Matrix. I just love the like multi-layered kind of like mythic struck, all that stuff. It's just such a great show. I love it. Um, and then the only other one is that's kind of a random one is Contact, which is this wild show about space exploration. I love that Jodie Foster, and I love that show. Um, okay, Griff, you're nodding. Are you ready to go?
I guess so. I feel like I haven't thought about this question in so many years, and I've seen so many movies since then. It used to be Shawshank Redemption, but I can't really honestly, I feel like I'm sure I've seen a newer movie since then that's really good. Maybe to go tangential. I'm watching the Battlestar Galactica series for like the fifth time or something. So I might. It's not a movie; it's a TV series, but I really enjoy it. I'll throw it over to let's go to Enti.
Thanks. I'm not sure what to answer, but I really like Christopher Nolan's movies. So I don't know the Origin or the Batman series. That would probably be amongst my top movies full time. And let's pass it on over to Maxwell.
Geez, I don't know. So I want to say Star Wars just because I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but I'm actually more of a fan of the books than the movies. So like the books got me into the movies. Weirdly, I was like that weird age between when movies were coming out, um, or at least when I was old enough to go see them. And I love Dune, but the Dune movies have been inconsistent. But maybe that's like a dark horse pick. I'm just gonna say the Dune movies and universe in general because the old ones were so B movie cheesy and good. But the new one they actually did a really good job, right? So and then a new one's coming out. So yeah, I'll go with Dune. I'll pass it to Wonka.
Okay. Hi everyone. I'd say Big Fish and Forrest Gump. Has Acid Laser Gun?
No, thank you, Juan. My favorite movie, it's a Mexican one. It's called Güeros. Uh, Güeros in Spanish is we refer to people who is blonde, güeros. It's very cool. It's like maybe an independent movie, so I like those kind of movies. And yeah, I will show the trailer in the channel. And yeah, I'll pass it to Martin on mine.
Yeah, my favorite movie is Pulp Fiction. Bit of a Quentin Tarantino fan, and I also like the Batman series. I pass it to JH. JH
Uh,
Enya.
I think for me, yeah, probably Matrix, and then the other one will probably be Saw One, mainly because that was probably the first movie for me, well, first kind of thriller horror with the biggest plot twist at the end, which kind of changed my way of like looking at movies and plot twists and stuff like that. So yeah, Matrix and Saw One.
Okay, I think that leaves Nate and Bear too. Nate, do you want to go? Hmm. Well, Nate is rebooting. Bear, do you want to go?
Yeah. Well, I have something for the like travel movies. So I have three movies that I really really liked. One of them it's called Into the Wild, about a guy that goes traveling all the way to Alaska, There's another one, the Incredible Life of Walter Mitty, with Ben Stiller. It's kind of funny, but I really liked it. One of my favorite scenes of all times. It's in that movie. And the other one is Argentinian movie. It's called the Motorcycle Diaries. Kind of like the story of the Che Guevara, like at the beginning of his life, and it's also kind of like a road trip movie. So those are the ones for me. I'll pass it to Nate.
Sorry, can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. I'm assuming this is the favorite science fiction. Is it movie or show or anything?
Just movie, or it could be TV series if you want.
Okay, I'm a huge fan of a Netflix show called Dark. If you like time travel of any kind, I'm a huge fan of that show. They span 3 seasons and it's just brilliantly done. But yeah, outside of that, I really like, classic things like Fifth Element and just traditional like fun science fiction movies. But yeah, I'll pass it back to you.
Great selection. Actually, we should like put these on a list someplace so people can, because most of these I've heard of, but yeah, there's a few that I hadn't. So cool. All right, thanks everybody. So we got a few, just a quick check in on some updates. Acid had some things he wanted to run by us. And while he's getting that set up, Acid, can you share your screen? But while he's getting that set up, anybody have any other things that they'd like to do like some quick updates on for folks? The other things we're going to talk about is conviction voting, and then just looking at some new ideas for managing the common pool.
I was hopefully going to add the thread I started around praise just to the agenda, and it doesn't have to be first, but ideally somewhere towards the beginning, because I do have a hard stop at the bottom of the hour.
Okay. Well, so a couple options there, Maxwell. So we could, do you want to do like a brainstorming kind of thing, or do you just want to like give people kind of a quick, how much time would you like?
I honestly only, a few minutes, unless there's a lot of discussion around it. I just really wanted to pitch the idea, answer any questions people had just to start out, because the next step would be kind of us putting together a more fully fleshed out proposal. But I didn't want to go through all of that effort if everyone, if it was not something that everyone was kind of at least tentatively open to. So yeah, just a few minutes, and like I said, we don't have to go first. We have 20 minutes before I have to drop. So
no, let's do this. We'll have Acid go, and then let's do just like, let's cap it at like 5 or 10 minutes for the praise Twitter thing. I had one question I posted to you just a little while ago. So yeah, let's do that, and then we can dive into the conviction voting and common pool management. Is there anything else that anybody needs to cover or update on today? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so Acid, you want to take it away?
Yes. Give me a minute so I can share my screen.
The only update we have from Gravity is that we are already starting to work on the course. And yeah, we hope that maybe in 1 or 2 months we will be launching the course.
Okay, so there's not too much to say. I just share with you guys a couple of things. One of them are TC nouns. This is a proposal by NT, and good idea to have some TC nouns. I think Givet has some of them or are working on that stuff. But yeah, I make this robot proposal using.
Hey, sorry, Acid, sorry to interrupt, but NT,
Yeah.
do you want to just, NT, can you just do like a very short intro of like what public nouns are? So everybody knows.
Maybe can I get that intro really
Sure.
quick? So sorry. I'm part of public nouns, and I even just did a podcast on public nouns. But it's every 12 hours, assuming someone wants one. They launch a little NFT, and it gets auctioned off. Most of them are just going for 0.33. And in the project right now is Optimism, Gitcoin, Radical, basically all the public goods. Most of the major public goods focused projects you can think of have a little head. They have 7 heads right now, or they have 7 projects, each with 3 heads for 21 heads. And then and a new one gets auctioned off about every day. And they're going to add another group of heads, and then they will launch all of those, like a random head of these. I think let's say that there's another 7 groups that add heads. They're a random head of the full set of 42 heads would be chosen to be auctioned off every 12 hours. And this is, of course, following the success of Nouns DAO, which does one every 24 hours, and each one goes for like 30 something ether. And the most important part, of course, is that when you buy a noun, the money goes into a DAO, and DAO noun holders get to decide how those funds are spent. And public nouns is spending all of their funds that they collect on public goods.
Yeah, and something just about the proposal itself just to propose TEC heads. What we have to decide is 3 colors more than anything, or well, first if we all agree to that design of the head, and then we can just propose 3 heads. And so as laser has there, I don't know, around 5 or 7 colors, and so we would have to take 3 and then propose them to be included on public nouns. Just to be clear, we've said that, but it is only the head, and the head will be mixed with a set of bodies and other traits that they have already.
Okay, that sounds better. These are the robots I made. Maybe if you want another color, I can make it. I think this one is perfect. The blue one. No, maybe the yellow and purple. I don't know. But yeah, this one are the robots I made. Based on this robot that it's going to be on the quantifier tutorial that I'm working on the build campaign for Twitter. Yeah, that's it.
I think something we can do just for the sake of time. I'll add a few emojis from 1 to, I don't know how many colors are there, from 1 to 5. And if people after this call or anything can vote, signal with an emoji their preferences, I'll take the top 3 and use them for the proposal. Does that sound okay, or do we want to take more time, or I don't know how we want to do it?
Yeah, I think that's good. We don't need. I think it's just good for people to see it. My only feedback, Asa, would be if there's a way to like actually incorporate all the TEC main primary colors, that'd be nice. But I don't think it's that good. Yeah, it's not the end of the world if we don't have the primary colors. But
I would say just a little feedback. Well, first off, ask Laser, can you mute when you're not talking, because there's a fun echo, at least for me. But it's weird. It's like your shared screen is unmuted. So I don't know.
I'm muted, but yeah, maybe it's my screen.
Yeah, I was just muting your. I was muting your shared screen because it was echoing. But yeah.
Yeah, it's so weird that the shared screen is echoing and I have no way of muting it completely. But a couple of things. We don't get to change the shirt, it's only the head. And most heads have like 3 different formats. It's not just a change in color, but it's like here's one pixelated head with one shape and one thing. Like and then here's another one and then here's another one. So you might instead of just changing the inside color, maybe like have something else. And also no logos, no direct logos are quite allowed. So you can't make it like the T or anything. But you could make it a T or something, but I don't know. Just some food for thought there. Like if you look at the other team communities, they have like Radical has a sprout, a tree, and then a tree with flower, right? And um, yeah, Gitcoin has a couple different robot types of heads, but so I would do more than just change the color in the 3.
Okay, okay. Not just having different colors, like different
Yeah,
of hats. Okay, cool.
yeah.
Okay, so we need to keep moving. Acid, you want to show the Twitter banner?
Yes, I would like to share my screen, but maybe it makes a weird sound. So I'll copy.
Go ahead. I'll mute you. Okay. I'll mute your shared screen.
Okay. So I was talking with Steve. With Steve, is the guy who's helping the Give It the Galaxy Twitter accounts to get better and to cap on different content and that stuff. And we were talking about changing our Twitter to a different one because the Twitter banner it was showing a logo, and well, we have our logo in our profile pic, so we can use our banner to maybe a different stuff. He told me to maybe use like a phrase or something that represent TC, and I use this one from this one is on the website, and I think that it was maybe a good option to use it. Sustainable and ethical design for token ecosystems built with us, and the logo behind that. And he liked it. Um, he think that this was a good idea for the banner, and I just showing out to you guys to maybe know your opinion, and if we need to change something, change it so we can use it right now in our Twitter. And that was all.
So I have a suggestion, which is okay. Wait. My suggestion is let's do it, and just know that this is an iterative process. We will this may be what we stick with, but it's better than what we've got right now. I think it's good. I mean, I think it's good. I think it's much better than what we've got right now. And we're going to come back and do more like some deep dive on our communications over the next few months. So to me, this seems like a good placeholder. And so if we frame it from that perspective, how are people feeling about it? Maybe what we can do is just get a quick round of like icons, like thumbs up if you feel like this is good enough for right now.
I'm okay with that. I would just make a really small suggestion of the font, making it a bit more bold or a bit more big, because I think with the background and everything, if you don't look at it close enough or anything, it can get a bit confusing. The text and everything, it's not as clear. But apart from that, it seems looks good.
Any other piece of feedback?
Maybe one thing, just because the TEC background behind the words, the middle part of the E looks almost like it's framing the logo in words, and it's just off center enough that it looks maybe intentionally not into or something, right? So make it move, like shift that background a little bit so that it doesn't look like that box of the middle E is trying to frame the bottom part and is just off center. Maybe that's just me, it's just bugging me. Like I like the G in token engineering commons, it's like halfway over that little box. It looks like it's a, yeah, I don't know. It strikes me a little weird.
Me too, man. I was gonna say that. Yeah, yeah. The perfectionists out here, we just like, it's like, no. So, okay, so Acid, why don't you take this feedback and do like just another iteration on it? Just post it. We won't talk about this next week, but just post it on the contributor channel and maybe ping folks, and we can just do another quick round of feedback for you that way. Okay?
Yeah, fine. Thank you, guys.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. Thanks, Acid. All right. So Maxwell, do you want to give us give us your overview of the idea, the Twitter praise idea?
Yeah, let's do it. So last week in the rewards call, we started kind of talking about just kind of high level goals, talking about last year, how praise has worked so far. And we ended up kind of getting to the point of, we've done a good job rewarding folks, incentivizing folks to add value in the Discord. But kind of one of the other goals that I think rewards really is trying to further is this idea of being inclusive and bringing people in the larger token engineering field into the discussion and praising and rewarding contributions to the field. But right now, the restriction is they have to be a member of our Discord, right? And there's a lot of contributions happening outside of our Discord. I mean, even just in the Token Engineering Academy Discord, right? I just popped in there. There's no praise bot in there, right? So having someone join your Discord and having it be an extra place to go to talk about stuff is sometimes a barrier of entry, or is a barrier of entry. So we started talking about ways to make it multi-platform, and the kind of glaring obvious choice as a first step for that would be Twitter. And so we brainstormed some ideas on how to, obviously not make it a bot spam fest, around making sure that people who are dishing praise are registered or vetted in some way, that it's not just, scattershot. So all that's in the thread, but the Mitch had a couple follow-ups with Christopher around like feasibility of doing it. And so kind of at a first blush, we think it's possible. We think it's not a huge effort. It's probably a medium development effort. And we wanted to kind of gauge some interest around the TEC supporting, in part or all, funding of a plug, like the first open source plugin for praise that would plug into Twitter. And it would just be for, we would obviously trial it out for TEC. It would be for TEC, make a mechanism that it would identify TEC praise, right? Not for anyone else using praise on Twitter. And being able to praise folks in the community. And Gideon, I saw your question, right? So things like blog posts, Medium articles that people are posting on Twitter that further token engineering. Someone from TEC could say, hey, praise this person. That was a cool article that, that added value to the community. And they would be able to see that they got praised. They would be able to, see that someone from Token Engineering Commons praised them. And then if they wanted to, actually go get that, they could come register, and register their wallet, register whatever, and then collect that praise. But yeah, so high level, questions, anything we want to add on? Oh, and Mitch mentioned, right? So it would be like a General Magic contract thing where we'd go and have them develop it, and it would be an open source plugin to praise. Questions, comments? Anything to add, Mitch?
Yeah, just to back to the point, like this is already on Christopher's radar, and just talking with him for 10 minutes, it seems like already
I can't.
pretty clear. Yes? Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay. I think it's just Maxwell. Yeah, it seems like pretty well specced out, and I mean, I'm looking on Twitter and people are already dishing praise there, and so to build the first of its kind that's actually getting this and then bringing engagement back to the TEC, I mean, it seems awesome. And this was part of the original spec we had to build these bots in Telegram and other places, and we just it didn't fit into the MVP.
So is the idea that you'd basically have like a whitelist of people who can dish praise? Is that the way it would work?
I don't think so. I don't think there would be a whitelist. Like maybe they would have to be registered already with the TEC somehow. But we also have the thing on the other end where like anybody can dish praise, but there's still people quantifying it, right? So I mean, you could just plug in as much nonsense as you want, but then the quantifiers are going to be like, "What is this?" So like, it won't be that easy to game, even if we make it inclusive to dish praise.
Yeah, and sorry, I don't know what was up with. I couldn't hear Mitch or Acid before, but I could hear everyone else. It was so weird. So apologies. I'm sure I spoke over a couple of people. Yeah, I think like Mitch was saying, right? I think the intent would really be like right now we have the praise giver role, right? You can't even dish praise in Discord if you don't have the praise giver role. So there already is some oversight around who gets that role and whether that is a role on Discord and they have to join Discord, or whether it's someone from the TEC saying yes, this person on Twitter is part of can dish praise, right? I think whether we do some sort of whitelist to validate would probably be part of the development cycle to see if that's even feasible. But to Mitch's point, right, we do have quantifiers, and if we didn't have to validate, that actually becomes probably less development work anyway. But yeah.
I'm curious. My first thought with that, I'm fully supportive of that, but I'd be curious to see if doing it on multiple Discord servers would be a possibility, or would it be better first and then try Twitter? Because I sense that there's, at least for the T community, there's more activity on Discord servers than it is on Twitter. And so I think for if the idea or the opportunity is more on potentially having praise on, I don't know, the Academy or the T Labs, or even CatCat, I'm not sure, other Discord servers, because I don't know if individuals on Twitter talking about token engineering are that much, or that common.
So I have kind of two thoughts around that. For integrating other Discord servers, one of the things that the quantifiers generally are, kind of need to be able to do is kind of validate the context of the praise. And if it's another Discord server, we would have to have quantifiers that were members of those other Discord servers. Otherwise, they'd have zero context for what they're quantifying. Now, that can kind of work, right? I mean, maybe. But that would be my one concern with limiting it to other Discords, is that the quantifiers would have no idea what was being praised on that other Discord server. All they would get was the line. Whereas our quantifiers obviously have access to our Discord, so if they have a question about something, they can just search Discord and find the context. And then on Twitter, I think the part of the appeal is that it is public facing, and maybe there's not a lot of discussion, but I think there's a lot of promotion of things that people have done, which would be, it would be good for someone in the TEC or someone in the token engineering community when they recognize those things to praise that and highlight things that people have done. Like if people write a blog post, write something that's a larger thing that took some effort to put into, I think those are the things, at least in the back of my mind, that we would be wanting to praise. Not to say that a lively discussion about token engineering shouldn't be praised, but it's a little bit easier to quantify and to immediately see the types of value that it could be bringing to token engineering when it's public and larger things that people will be promoting on Twitter. or maybe there's a good Twitter thread or something, right? But so I'm not opposed to doing other Discords. I think it's probably possible, just in the back of my head thinking about how the bot would work. But it would probably, we'd have to have the quantifiers be a member of that server, otherwise they couldn't have context. Mitch, thoughts?
But it's cool because Twitter's agnostic. It doesn't care about what server it's in. It's not boxed. So it's really open. And I mean, building it, we already have a Discord bot, but building this Twitter bot will be a really huge step that like we can not only update ours, but like build something that will be useful for other people as well. So it's like if we want to be more outward facing, like let's build stuff that's actually useful for other people as well. And if nobody has a reward system that's advanced as ours, I think. So it's like this would be a really, really cool thing to innovate.
And that's actually a good point. One thing to add to that, Twitter almost gets us, Twitter is one platform, but because it's public, we end up getting a lot of other platforms like Discourse, right? Someone can post a link to a forum post on Discourse in any community. And you don't need to hook up to every individual forum. It's kind of like, great, it's Twitter and it's a platform, but it's also a shortcut to a lot of other platforms that people promote on Twitter.
Hey guys, so I think we need to reserve the rest of the time for the discussion on the conviction voting and some of the other stuff. But I have a suggestion. Are you guys going to be meeting tomorrow? And if so, like maybe, like I at first I was like, I don't know, but now I'm starting to listen to this. I think it's really actually it's pretty exciting. So, if you're open, like. If you want some more feedback, maybe we like create a little bit more space for it, a little bit more time for feedback if you want. And you could do it in your regular call, or we could set up some time next week to do it.
Yeah, tomorrow's quantifier call, so that's not the reward call, but we could maybe try to hit it at the end. Or next week is the reward call, although next week I'm going to be traveling. I'll talk to you about that, Mitch. But
okay, go ahead, please.
Go ahead, man.
I just want to see would people support funding this? If we made a thing to the common pool, because I mean, there's lots of questions, but until we get into the development stuff of it, it's hard to answer everything. So it's we could spend a month or so debating about what it should be, but. If we just start looking at it from a development perspective, this all might change. So, how much do we want to open up and do the whole commons, or can we scope this to rewards to build this and make sure it plugs in?
Yeah, I mean, my only recommendation is if you can if you've got some way of getting feedback from folks and see if there's ways that they can piggyback and help make that successful, take some of the other stuff that's going on, if there's ways of doing that, that's great. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Why don't we follow up and just we can loop back on it, and you guys just keep moving forward, and then if you want to create space for some more feedback, a jam session, we can do it, and if not, then you can just do it through a proposal. That sound good?
Yeah, I mean, sure, we can make some space next Monday to talk about it, but I don't know. I can write a forum post. I can do whatever, but we have a thread here, so I mean that's the place to do it right now.
Okay, so people, how about that? Just people can brainstorm on the thread, and then if you guys want to convene a space to do some more brainstorming, we can do that next week, and just try to keep this moving. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. What is this watch together thing that's here? Did somebody share the watch the YouTube thing?
I'm trying to close it. I have no idea. I just clicked a button that way. I
Okay.
have no idea how to
Okay.
stop it.
All right. Let's now I'm through. I'm going into some weird YouTube hell of permissions. Okay. Close this thing. Let's talk about voting, and let's talk about okay, so I think that one of the things that there's a kind of a growing sense that the TEC, how do I close this thing?
Yeah.
God.
In the
It's
rocket.
not behaving
Is that you?
it should be behaving, and it's not. Are other people seeing this thing too? Is it kind of taking over their screen?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
let's
maybe
click the
you
rocket.
started it.
I'm gonna get out of this meeting for a second. I'll be right back.
It did, I didn't fix it.
Okay. Okay, so we wanted to talk a little bit about basically the TC right now has two services that are like the kind of core to the TEC, the ABC and our common pool. Like that's like there's just no doubt those are the things that people. I mean, that's where most of the token utility lies at this point. And I think that we're like having some questions about the way that we manage the common pool. There are a lot of different things that are kind of adding to that. Questions about whether or not conviction voting makes sense for a community of this size and the kind of the velocity of proposals that are coming through. But also just I think there's a sense of like, there's not a lot of money right now. And so we've got to find some ways to make this money stretch. And so looking at some alternatives, some kind of new ways of structuring that. So Griff had a couple of ideas on conviction voting, and then NT has some other stuff, some kind of brainstorming that we wanted to do about like some other options to be thinking about. Griff, do you want to take it for a little bit to talk about conviction voting?
Yeah. So in general, I think conviction voting works a lot better when there's lots of proposals competing for funding, and when there isn't another proposal to move to, it tends to just be really easy to pass proposals. There's no voting no, and all these things. So that's one kind of issue. Another opportunity is that the Common Stack is really focusing on reputation systems for the next commons, and there could be but conviction voting doesn't work with reputation. It doesn't work with TOOS tokens, but DAO voting does. So there is like I would say it wouldn't be a problem to effectively turn off conviction voting and use DAO voting, which is just normal yes no proposals with delegation, actually. So you can delegate. So people who aren't around can delegate their vote to more active participants, and there can be a little bit more like community signaling than there is in conviction voting, because people could actually say no, they don't like that idea. And yeah, so there's DAO voting is a clear option, and it would require almost no configuration. We'd have to change one variable in conviction voting, and DAO voting already has power over the common pool for spending. The issue here would be that it's a little complicated to create a funding proposal through Gardens. The cool opportunity here is that Aragon is creating a new UI for DAO voting that we could use that is more simple. So lots of things in the mix there, but that's one thing to consider. Other thing to consider is reputation voting, like being able to distribute a reputation token with praise or some other way, and actually reduce our spending on praise, but still give people who receive praise a voice in how the DAO is moving forward, which might be an interesting consideration. And that would allow us to use DAO voting DAO voting would work with multiple tokens, whereas conviction voting. But the really cool thing that I would like to also propose is actually using quadratic funding through an alpha round with Gitcoin instead of distributing funds through conviction voting for open source public goods. That we basically, instead of funding proposals directly through our DAO for public goods funding, we use quadratic funding, and we put up, some amount of money, but then also solicit more donations from the broader community for these other projects. And I would suggest that all of those tokens, like the money that we put up, the pot of funds that we put up, to be matched, and the tokens that are donated, that we make everyone use the TEC token as the donation token and the token of the pot of fund. So this is kind of like a 3-part thing, and maybe that I would suggest or propose, and maybe it's one thing at a time that we would move towards. But I really think having a reputation token help govern the internal dynamics of what we spend money on would make a lot of sense, as opposed to it just being purely the people who have TC tokens decide like where funds flow for our operations, and then make it so that just TC tokens can actually decide how funds are distributed for public goods in the TC space, but use the mechanism of quadratic funding instead. And actually, the way you vote with TC tokens that way is by voting with your wallet, by actually donating. And then this would bring a lot of interesting utility to the TC token, and Gitcoin would do our dev work, basically. So that's really nice. That's kind of like a 3-part proposal, and I'm curious what people think about it. Maybe we do it without the reputation token. Like, that's not necessary at all, but I'm really excited about reputation tokens, and I think they should be involved in DAO governance. And we actually already have some sort of initialization for that with the vote for a 75% governance give back. That was is a vote that passed that we never were able to execute on. So Wonka actually wrote the post. So it would be pretty cool to fulfill that requirement with a reputation token. And I think praise actually, honestly, I feel like praise works better with reputation than it does with money. I would still say we could still give away like $100 or $200 worth of TEC tokens with praise alongside the reputation token. But these details, who knows? I'm just curious what you guys think about the larger scope.
Hey, Griff, can I clarify? I'm just taking notes as we're going through. I just want to clarify one thing that I thought I heard you say. Are you saying for public goods funding, we would, you're saying the reputation token would be more for kind of internal operational type decisions, or are you saying that would also be for public goods funding decisions too?
I would say that instead of our DAO, I would say it's a little bit of a mix, but I'd say instead of like if T Academy or CAD wants to get money from the TEC, they don't really make a proposal to the TEC DAO. That we would divert most of our public goods funding to Gitcoin's quadratic funding interface, and that we would do maybe quarterly or really whenever the DAO votes to fund public goods. We don't decide which public goods get funded. We put up a Gitcoin alpha round. We put up a round and put 20K or 50K or however much worth of TEC tokens up for grabs, and then Token Engineering Academy, CAD, and all these projects end up, vying for that match. I think the real value here, the real magic that Gitcoin ran across is this viral marketing that happens through their donation rounds. That TEC doesn't have to try to find people to propose to, to give this money to. We don't have to, we just put up the matching round. And then lots of TEC projects would come out of the woodwork and actually say, hey, buy TEC tokens, donate TEC tokens to my grant here, add me to your ballot or whatever UX they're using these days. And then, basically all of these TE organizations are actually advertising to their community to buy TEC tokens and donate $1 on the TE token engineering, alpha quadratic funding round. And then for $20,000 or whatever we put up, actually, maybe 30 or maybe even $100,000 ends up being sent to TE public good. Our job would be to curate the round. These projects wouldn't just get added, they would have to apply. We would need to validate them. We need to say yes or no on their application, and then run the round. And after the round, we'd have to do some fun civil detection work, which Gitcoin has all the tools for.
So before we open this up, this was actually NT was going to talk about some of this stuff too. So NT, let me just see if you have anything you would like to add to what Griff just said.
Well, I guess repeating this what I told you yesterday. I think, in general, I think it's a really great idea, especially the part about conviction voting and using Gitcoin grants protocol. I'm a bit skeptical about reputation, if I'm honest, more than anything, because I think seeing these past 2 years, for example, I think that for us, our priority should be to probably be as standard or as basic as possible and try to focus on actually getting some things done. And reputations, I would consider is still somewhat experimental. So I would rather, maybe we can mint the tokens or anything, but I would rather not focus the limited resources we have in that for the time being. And so I guess now tapping into what I wanted to talk, which is pretty in line with Gitcoin rounds, which is pretty much grants and funds distribution. There's also the prop house model, prop house / ENS grants, because they use kind of the same thing. And so Gideon and I were talking yesterday, and I thought that something that would be great was to first have a very simple small grants program where we can take, I don't know, even $5,000 a month or something around that, and people could vote on it with TC tokens, and the top 3, top 5, whatever, get 1K each. And I think this works better first because people, projects proposing would know that they either get 1,000 or not, because I think with Gitcoin grants it's a bit different. Depends a lot on how much projects, how much matching funds they are, and so for the beginning, I think it would be better if we could encourage projects to have a predictable amount of funding they can request. And in the meanwhile, say we spend 1 quarter doing these small rounds, we could then start working on a bigger Gitcoin grant round, which would take some time to look for partners that would like to contribute to the matching pool. And after that, I guess I have some general questions about the grants protocol, but we'll have to see when they launch and all the documentation. But yeah, just that.
So let's open it up for general feedback. We've got like 8 minutes.
Well, yeah, sure. I've got lots of stuff here. Um, First of all, we're not really spending that much on praise anymore. Since we put in the dynamic distribution, we're spending somewhere around like maybe 100 to 120 TC on a biweekly basis. So it's like it's about $100 honestly in TC. You know, I agree with Griff's point on conviction voting in the TEC. I think it's easy, and I think some of the problems could be remedied just by looking at our parameters again and making it harder to pass things. Because changing it to DAO voting or changing it completely will be hard. It's like it's not very easy for people to engage with it. It's like you go through a terminal or whatever, and this hopefully Aragon puts out something around like a DAO voting interface, but then how do we plug that in with what we already have existing with this intricate system of conviction voting and DAO voting and an augmented bonding curve all, combined together? It'll be difficult to pull one piece away and plug it into something else, I think, if we move away from conviction voting. The grants round, again, it's like, okay, we're going to put up all this TC and like you cross your fingers that other people are going to put in money. Because I mean, like, if it hasn't happened now in the last year and a half that like all the engagement and nobody's really like seemed keen to partner up and help fund TE, it's a risky assumption that if you build this that it'll work out. People will jump in and start throwing money into your grants round. Especially given the reality of the market. And talking to our inside Kurt, it looks like the contracts will change a lot for Gitcoin Grants 2.0. They're not done. They'll change a lot. They need to be audited again. And so it'll be a long time potentially until we can actually use them.
They will host an alpha round for us. We don't have to even, and they will. If things change, they would update for us. So we wouldn't have to hire devs or anything. The main thing we would have to do is put up the fund or find the funds. I think that we could do a round without having to request other people's funds as a proof of concept. The fact that we are sending, if you look at it, we've sent over somewhere around 400K out to different projects. And I think if we said, hey, there's 30K up for grabs, but it goes to the people who get the most donations in this alpha round. Of course, there's, I think people would want to donate. I think projects would rally their community to donate, like Giveth is doing right now with Gitcoin Grants, where we're like DMing everyone, begging them to go through the passport process. And as far as using DAO voting for a UI, the Aragon UI is basically done, and we wouldn't lose the Gardens UI either. So we would have both UIs for changing for voting. Both UIs would work for voting on the same smart contracts, right? And so we could people could use whichever UI they prefer, and there would be still like the same way that I was changing the tributes using the EVM CRISPR plugin for the gardens. We would have to use that for any other parameter change. We could still use that for any other parameter change. But I still think these are really valid points. I don't think except for the alpha round, moving as a foundation, it would be more of a social partnership with Gitcoin. And so if they change the code base, they would change it. They would upgrade our system.
I'll hop in. I see we only have a few minutes left. I think the Gitcoin grants alpha round for TEC and token engineering. It's the first time I'm hearing it, so my knee-jerk reaction is it's super, super compelling. It is an alpha round, and hasn't finished yet, so it'll be interesting to see what bugs and/or issues they have discovered after they close. But it sounds like something that would be beneficial to the TEC in many ways. Put that aside from conviction voting, just standing on its own merit, it sounds like a very compelling idea. We should further investigate at the very least, if not start moving towards. And then for conviction voting, it's like a thorn in my side. One of the things that I think this is a small thing that I could help conviction voting is just like, 8 weeks it dies. Like if we could just set a timer to like have a proposal expire, and if it hasn't really garnered enough, conviction in that time, then it just sort of dies on the vine. But in principle, I think for the size of the TEC and the funding that we have, I think it makes sense to move to something other than conviction voting. And then for the reputation discussion, the design of that is going to be, somewhat complex, and it'll take a lot of time to design that in a way that makes the most sense. So in principle, yes, but the complexity of the design for that will be something that I think will take time for us to do right. And that concludes my thinking.
Thank you. That's good. Okay, so anybody have the last word that they would like to have on this? We will figure out a way to follow up on this. This is clearly this is at the heart of the TEC, so consider this just maybe the first conversation as we kick this off. But maybe the way to think about this is, are there ways of breaking this up into some chunks rather than thinking about this as like one big giant enchilada? Last word? Anybody have last word?
Yeah, I think just about that. So I think funding. I think we should, whether it's Gitcoin or any other thing, I think we have to start moving towards ways to fund TE public goods. Especially because with the status of the creation service and just how everything is moving, we have to start to venture into some other things to do, and that seems like some great way to both advance TEC and promote ourselves further. And then I guess I would treat voting as a separate thing to start thinking about it, follow up with the Aragon interface, and just see what's the best way.
All right.
I will say, right after this call, I will be going over interest in research groups. So if anybody wants to get into the nitty-gritty details of the way this is moving forward, please stick around.
Okay. All right, everybody. We will be following up on this one for sure. But it's good to get this initial feedback from folks. Thank you. Thanks everybody for joining. And we'll see some of you on Thursday and the rest of you next Tuesday.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.